Go.
Okay, so we're very proud of ourselves in that we've put a website up there that the citizens can fill all the information in, and we've now got a digital strategy. Yeah? So they fill it in and it saves us having to do the job. What happens to that information when the person presses the button? Yeah. Well, we've got down here somewhere, a database associated with an application. Let's say it's Confirm. Yeah? And that maintains all our different waste systems that are being done and so on, jobs to be done and the like. And that information needs to get into there. Yeah? So what are the different ways that we can get from there to there? Well, the first way, quite simply, is that we can print this out, email it, send it to somebody, and they can use Confirm on their screen, yeah, type it in, yeah. That will be sent to the Confirm application, yeah, which applies some business logic, and the data goes into our database. Yeah? All understand that? Yeah? That's what we do. We sit down on the keyboard, we type it in. Right? The important thing here is that we've got a whole set of rules that are applied. And those rules are provided by the people who provide Confirm. Yeah? It guarantees that this database down here is consistent. All understand that? Mm-hmm. Right? It works. We know it works. That's why we bought Confirm. But it's a little bit of a waste because we've typed something in here digitally. In fact, we've got somebody else to do that for us. That's our saving. But we just repeat the process over here. So we've actually achieved very little. Yeah. So what are our other options? Well, we could write ourselves a program, yeah, that takes this information and puts it directly into that database. Can anybody see a problem with that?
It bypasses the business logic.
Yeah. If we do that, there is no business logic applied. Yeah? There's no business logic applied. And that means that unless we are perfectly aware of the way that this database works, we've got a huge opportunity to corrupt that data. And if we corrupt that data, the people who provide Confirm are going to laugh at us, charge us a lot of money, and say you're not supported anymore. Okay? So we don't want to do that. Right? You don't want to do that. So that option's sort of rubbed out. Okay? So reading and writing to the database is a no-go. Can anyone think of any other ways of doing that?
API.
We could have an API. Now, an API effectively gives you another route to that business logic. It is the vendor of Confirm saying, I know you want to do this, and I'm going to provide a way of doing it. So our data can go to the API. The API applies the business rules, and the data gets safely into Confirm. Yeah? Which is great. And if you have an API that you have bought and paid for, could afford, and it does what you want it to do, then we'd be the first people to say, use the API. Because it's safe, it's secure, it's guaranteed to apply the business logic. Now, if you've got it, great, but there are some drawbacks with APIs. One drawback is that you have to pay for it. Yeah. Another drawback is that there is actually some code here, yeah, that takes that data and feeds that, and that's not a trivial task. That's a proper developer job to do that. Yeah? It's not some young graduate. This is deep coding. And it's not trivial either. Yeah. And then the last thing is, the API often only gives you a subset of that business logic. A small part. So you have to be absolutely certain that the things that you want to do are available through the API that you are buying. Okay? And I can take you to lots of people who bought APIs and found out it didn't do what they wanted it to do. Okay? So yes, that's great, but it's not a universal answer to everything. So what are we left with then? If the API we can't afford and doesn't do what we want, what are we left with? Well, what we know is that we have to go through that business logic. And there are only two ways on the board to get through that business logic. One is to do the API, the other one is to come through this route. And that's what we do. Right? Because our product sits there and uses the facilities provided by the vendor to process the data through the application, through the business logic, so that we can guarantee that we will not corrupt that database. And we do it with a piece of software that sits in your server room, lights turned out, runs 24 hours a day, and can take as many transactions as you care to throw at it. Any questions?
How does it do it?
Join me next week for episode 2.